My beloved child, I have brought this letter to you because I do not want you to keep walking past what your heart has asked me to explain. I am not speaking because I am angry with you. I am not trying to frighten you into listening. I am speaking because there are moments when love must become clear before confusion becomes another habit. Stay with me for a little while. Let the room become quiet right now. Let your hands stop reaching for the next distraction. Let your mind rest from the pressure to solve everything at once. My beloved child, you have heard many voices lately. Some promised too much, some warned too loudly. Some made you feel that if you did not respond immediately, you would miss the only chance you would ever receive. It is for the part of you that prayed quietly, then stood up the next morning and acted as though you were fine. It is for the nights when your body was tired, but your thoughts kept moving. You replayed a conversation. You examined a sentence. You wondered what you should have said differently. You tried to understand why someone changed. You built 10 possible futures from one unanswered message. My beloved child, I saw every one of those nights. I saw the mornings when you woke up feeling as though sleep had never truly reached you. I saw you watch other people move forward and wonder why their doors seemed to open quickly while yours remained closed. I saw you become careful with hope. You wanted to believe something good could happen, but every time hope rose, an old disappointment stepped forward and reminded you what happened before. You called that caution. But sometimes it was exhaustion wearing the clothes of wisdom. Your heart has been standing guard for too long. That is why I am placing this letter before you now, not to tell you that every dream you imagined will happen exactly as you pictured it, not to promise that every person will return, not to tell you that every closed door will suddenly open. I am asking you to remember who I am while you stand in uncertainty. Think about Hagar in the wilderness. She believed the road had reached an ending, yet I saw her when she felt unseen. The circumstance did not become easy because she was noticed, but she learned that she had not disappeared from my sight. My beloved child, neither have you. I have seen the places where you became tired of explaining yourself. I have seen the quiet desire growing inside you to simplify your life. You want fewer confusing conversations. You want less noise. You want to stop giving your energy to things that leave you empty. You want to speak less and observe more. Do not immediately assume that every change inside you is anxiety. You must learn the difference between anxiety and guidance. Anxiety runs in circles. Guidance brings you back to what is in front of you. Anxiety demands that you solve the whole future tonight. Guidance gives you enough light for the next faithful step. Anxiety tells you that every delay means loss. Guidance reminds you that some delays create space for truth to become visible. My beloved child, you have mistaken pressure for importance before. You have believed that because something felt urgent, it must deserve your immediate yes. You have believed that because someone became emotional, you had to change your boundary. You have believed that because a door was closing, you had to run through it before it disappeared. I am teaching you another rhythm. What is from me may require courage, but it will not need manipulation. It may ask you to wait, but it will not humiliate you while you wait. It may ask you to speak honestly, but it will not require you to disappear from your own life. It may stretch you, but it will not ask you to betray the peace I am teaching you to protect. I am telling you that truth has a way of arriving when you are finally prepared to see it. A conversation may reveal what you could not understand before. An opportunity may appear and show you whether you still rush when fear becomes loud. A person may return and give you the chance to notice whether their actions have changed or only their words. A quiet season may show you that peace is not emptiness. My beloved child, the letter is not only about what may arrive, it is also about how you will receive what comes. If you still believe your worth depends on being chosen, you may hand something precious to the first person who gives you attention. If you still believe love requires exhaustion, you may call overgiving devotion. If you still believe waiting means doing nothing, you may ignore the responsibility already in your hands. This is why preparation matters. Remember Samuel learning to recognize my voice. At first, he did not understand what he was hearing. Recognition came through stillness, attention, and repeated listening. I am teaching you to listen that way. Not every strong feeling is my voice. Not every fear is a warning. Not every open door is an answer. Not every closed door is rejection. You will need to look at fruit. You will need to notice peace. You will need to give time permission to reveal what excitement cannot. My beloved child, this letter carries mercy, not threat. I am not rushing you toward panic. I am calling you toward awareness. There are old conclusions about yourself that cannot travel with you forever. There are names you accepted because someone else gave them to you. Too much, too sensitive, too difficult, too late. Not enough. I want those names placed down. You do not need to carry them into the next season. For now, do one simple thing. Be still long enough to ask yourself what has been asking for your attention without shouting, what keeps returning quietly, what truth becomes clearer when fear settles, what part of your life keeps asking for honesty instead of another explanation. My beloved child, do not force the answer. Let it come into the light. This letter has found you because you are ready to stop moving past the places where truth has been waiting. And before you can understand what is being prepared, you must first learn how to recognize the difference between the voice that pressures you and the guidance that leads you in peace. My beloved child, now that you have begun to notice the difference between the voice that pressures you and the guidance that leads you in peace, I want to make that difference clearer. You have lived through enough uncertainty to know how quickly fear can imitate urgency. It can make one unanswered message feel like a crisis. It can make one closed door feel like the end of your future. It can make one difficult conversation feel as though everything must be solved before the night is over. But my guidance does not move that way. Anxiety circles the same question until your mind becomes tired. My guidance brings you back to what is actually in front of you. Anxiety tells you to imagine every possible ending. My guidance asks you to take responsibility for the next faithful step. Anxiety says, hurry before everything changes. My guidance says, become still enough to see what is true. My beloved child, I know why anxiety feels convincing to you. There were seasons when things changed without warning. Someone became distant. A promise was withdrawn. A plan you trusted fell apart. You learned that waiting could be painful, so part of you decided that moving quickly might keep you safe. But speed does not always create safety. Sometimes speed only keeps you from noticing what pressure is trying to hide. Think of Martha when Jesus entered her home. She was pulled in many directions by what seemed necessary in the moment. Her activity was not evil. Her care was real. But she became so occupied that she lost contact with the deeper thing happening in front of her. My beloved child, anxiety can do the same to you. It fills your hands so completely that you cannot hear what your heart is trying to say. It makes you answer before you understand. It makes you explain before anyone has asked for clarity. It makes you give before respect has been established. It makes you chase after doors that are closing, without asking whether there is still room behind them for you to grow. Not every closed door is a loss. Some doors close because what is behind them can no longer support the person you are becoming. Some conversations end because continuing them would only repeat the same confusion. Some opportunities disappear because they demanded more of your dignity than they were ever prepared to return. Some relationships become distant because you are no longer willing to shrink yourself to keep them comfortable. My beloved child, do not assume that every empty space means something has been taken from you. Sometimes empty space is preparation. A table must be cleared before something new can be placed upon it. A field must sometimes rest before it can carry another harvest. A room can look bare after old furniture is removed. Yet the emptiness may be the first sign that change has truly begun. This is why I am teaching you not to rush to fill every silence. You do not need to call someone back simply because the quiet feels unfamiliar. You do not need to accept an offer simply because you are afraid another one may never come. You do not need to reopen a conversation simply because the ending left you uncomfortable. Let the space speak. Let time reveal what pressure was trying to make you decide too quickly. My beloved child, my guidance can be firm. It can ask you to speak a difficult truth. It can lead you away from something familiar. It can show you that a choice you hoped would work is no longer healthy. But even when the step is difficult, my guidance does not divide you from yourself. There is a difference between trembling and being manipulated. There is a difference between courage and panic. There is a difference between discomfort and confusion that keeps growing because the truth is being avoided. Remember Elijah, after the wind, the earthquake, and the fire, my voice was not proven by the loudest movement around him. He learned to recognize me in a quieter place. My beloved child, loud does not always mean important. Strong emotion does not always mean direction. A deadline does not automatically mean destiny. A person's disappointment does not automatically mean you have made the wrong choice. Learn to ask what the pressure is producing in you. Does it make you clearer or more confused? Does it make you honest or make you hide what you truly feel? Does it leave room for prayer or make prayer feel like a delay you cannot afford? Does it respect your need to think or punish you for not deciding immediately? What comes from me can withstand your questions. It can withstand one more night of prayer. It can withstand careful thought. It can withstand truth. My beloved child, you do not lose what is truly right for you by refusing to abandon discernment. You may lose what depends on confusion. You may lose what survives only when you remain afraid. You may lose an invitation that needed your panic in order to become attractive. But that kind of loss is not the same as missing what I have prepared. I am teaching you to let peace become deeper than your first reaction. Do not make your first emotion your final verdict. When something arrives and your heart begins racing, pause. Breathe slowly. Ask what you know. Ask what you are assuming. Ask whether the urgency is coming from the situation itself or from an old wound that is afraid of being left behind. My beloved child, this will take practice. At first, slowing down may feel irresponsible. You may feel guilty for not answering. You may fear that someone will change their mind. You may worry that an opportunity will disappear. But wisdom needs space. Discernment needs light. And your dignity should not be the price you pay for being included. There is another reason I am teaching you this now. Something small may soon require your attention. It may be a conversation. It may be an offer. It may be a message that arrives when you are tired. It may be an opportunity that appears after a long silence. To everyone else, it may seem ordinary, but the way you respond could reveal how much you have changed. Do not judge it only by how exciting it feels. Do not judge it only by how quickly it appeared. Do not judge it only by how much you once wanted something like it. Look more carefully. My beloved child, every letter should be examined before you place your name beneath it. Every door should be tested before you hand over the key. Every invitation should be allowed to stand in the light long enough for its true nature to become visible. You are not becoming suspicious. You are becoming discerning. You will learn that peace does not remove every question, but it gives you enough steadiness to ask the right ones without surrendering yourself. And now that you can separate anxiety from my guidance, I want to teach you how to examine the seal before you respond. My beloved child, now that you are learning to separate anxiety from my guidance, I want you to become careful with what you receive. Not every message deserves your answer. Not every invitation deserves your yes. Not every opportunity that arrives after a long silence carries my seal. You may face something that looks ordinary, a conversation, an offer, a message that appears when your heart is tired, a person returning when loneliness has made you softer, a decision that seems ordinary to everyone else, but small moments can redirect a life. My beloved child, do not judge the envelope only by its appearance. Examine the seal. What comes from me may be serious, but it will not need manipulation. It may ask courage from you, but it will not force you to betray your peace. It may require patience, but it will not humiliate you while you wait. It may ask you to move, but it will not demand that you abandon wisdom just to prove your faith. Pressure behaves differently. Pressure says you must decide before you have time to pray. Pressure says you must explain yourself before you understand what is happening. Pressure says you must give more before respect has been established. Pressure says if you slow down, you will lose everything. My beloved child, I do not need panic to lead you. Think of King Solomon when he asked for wisdom instead of asking first for wealth, victory, or long life. He understood that what stood before him required more than desire. He needed discernment to judge well. You need that same posture now. Do not ask only, do I want this? Ask, what is this producing in me? Do not ask only, have I waited a long time for something like this? Ask, can this stand in the light? Do not ask only, does this person sound sincere? Ask, do their actions remain consistent after emotion settles? Do not ask only, is this opportunity exciting? Ask, what does it require me to ignore in order to keep it? My beloved child, truth does not fear examination. If something collapses because you asked one question, the question did not destroy it. The question revealed what was already weak. If someone becomes angry because you need time, your need for time did not create the problem. It exposed how much they expected access without patience. If an opportunity disappears because you refuse to abandon your dignity, then your dignity was not the obstacle. The opportunity was asking for too much. This is why I want you to slow down before you sign your name. You have signed too many invisible agreements in the past. You agreed to carry emotional weight that was never yours. You agreed to wait without clarity because you feared losing the connection. You agreed to accept repeated explanations because hope felt easier than truth. You agreed to call inconsistency complicated when the pattern had already become clear. My beloved child, I am not reminding you of those things to shame you. I am teaching your hand to pause before it signs again. There are moments when truth first hurts before it heals. You may discover that something you worked hard to preserve was never equally committed to preserving you. You may realize that someone benefited from keeping the relationship unclear. You may understand that what you called patience had quietly become avoidance. You may see that the cycle you called waiting continued because leaving required courage you did not yet have. That recognition can make your heart sink. You do not need to rescue yourself from every uncomfortable truth. Sometimes sorrow is the doorway through which clarity enters. Remember Nathan speaking truth to David after David had hidden what he had done. The truth was painful, but hiding could not restore him. Exposure was not the end of mercy. It became the beginning of repentance and a return to honesty. My beloved child, light can hurt the eyes when a room has been dark for a long time. That does not make the light cruel. It means your vision is adjusting. I am not teaching you to distrust everyone. I do not want you to become cold. I do not want discernment to become suspicion. I do not want one betrayal to make every new person guilty before they have done anything wrong. You can remain tender and still ask questions. You can remain hopeful and still watch patterns. You can forgive and still require accountability. You can listen to an apology and still wait to see whether behavior changes. This is what it means to examine the seal. My beloved child, pay attention to what happens when you bring something into the light. Does the person become clearer or more confusing? Does the opportunity become more stable or more urgent? Does the conversation make room for honesty or punish you for speaking it? Does the path allow prayer or make you feel that prayer will cause you to miss your chance? Does your dignity remain intact? Does your ability to choose remain intact? The seal is not found in excitement alone. It is not found in how badly you want something. It is not found in how long you have waited. It is not found in whether another person says all the words you hope to hear. My beloved child, what carries my direction will be able to survive truth. It will survive another question. It will survive a thoughtful pause. It will survive time long enough for the first wave of emotion to settle. You do not need to make a permanent decision from a temporary feeling. If your heart is vulnerable, wait. If your body is exhausted, rest before you answer. If the situation is confusing, write down what you know and what you are only assuming. If someone is pressing you, notice whether their urgency is helping you see clearly or making clarity harder. My beloved child, one small moment may soon sit before you like an unopened letter. Others may not understand why it matters. You have lived enough life to know that one yes can change a season. One no can protect years. One delayed answer can reveal character. One honest question can expose what charm was hiding. Do not be afraid of the truth that appears. If it belongs with you, truth will strengthen it. If it does not belong with you, truth may remove the illusion before you invest more of yourself. Either way, truth is serving you. And this is why the waiting you have endured was not empty. The days that seemed like blank pages were teaching you how to read differently. You were learning not to confuse attention with value. You were learning not to call exhaustion loyalty. You were learning not to give your name to every letter that arrived at your door. My beloved child, the next question is no longer only whether something is coming. The deeper question is whether you are prepared to recognize what belongs to you when it arrives. To understand that you must see what the delay has been doing in you all along. My beloved child, to understand what belongs to you when it arrives, you must understand what the delay has been preparing inside you. You looked at the waiting and called it empty. You saw months pass and wondered whether nothing was moving. But what felt like silence was not the absence of work. I was teaching your heart how to receive without losing itself. You once believed that if something took too long, it probably meant you had been rejected. You watched other people receive what you had prayed for, and you asked why their doors seemed to open while yours remained still. My beloved child, delay is not always rejection. Sometimes delay is protection. Sometimes delay is preparation. Sometimes delay is the space where your vision becomes clear enough to recognize what would have harmed you before. Think of Joseph. He received a dream long before he understood how the road would unfold. Between the dream and the place of responsibility came betrayal, waiting, misunderstanding, and years when nothing seemed to match what had been shown to him. Yet the hidden years were not wasted. They formed the wisdom he would later need. I have been doing something similar in you. You thought you were only waiting for an answer. I was teaching you not to call attention love. You thought you were waiting for someone to choose you. I was teaching you that your value does not rise and fall with another person's decision. You thought you were waiting for an opportunity. I was teaching you not to enter every open room simply because you feared another door might never appear. My beloved child, some lessons need time because they must move deeper than your emotions. If I placed something precious into your hands before you understood your worth, you might hand it to someone who had never learned how to handle it with care. If I opened a door while you still believed urgency was a sign of importance, you might run through it before asking what the room required from you. If I brought a healthy connection while you still believed love had to be earned through exhaustion, you might begin overgiving before the relationship had even learned your true name. This is why the waiting mattered. Picture a letter written with wet ink. If you fold it too quickly, the words smear. If you press your hand against it before it has settled, the message becomes difficult to read. There are seasons when I allow the ink to dry. There are seasons when what belongs to you is being sealed, so that you do not mistake another urgency for your assignment. There are seasons when the messenger is still traveling across ground you cannot see. My beloved child, you stand at the threshold and think nothing is moving because you cannot see movement. But unseen does not mean inactive. A conversation may be happening without you. A decision may be forming in a place you cannot enter. A motive may be revealing itself through time. An opportunity that looked perfect may be showing cracks before it reaches your hands. A false door may be closing itself so you do not spend another season forcing it open. You do not need to investigate all of this. You do not need to decode every delay. You do not need to search for hidden signs in every day. Your work is not to control the road. Your work is to become ready to walk it with clarity. My beloved child, I know there is a part of you that is afraid to believe something may come. You have heard beautiful words before. You trusted promises before. You imagined futures that never became real. Then you had to gather yourself after disappointment and learn how to hope again. So now, even when something good appears, part of you asks whether you are being foolish for believing. I understand, but I am not asking you to put faith in the future you have imagined. I am asking you to put faith in my character. The outcome may not look the way you pictured it. The road may turn. A person you expected to remain may not remain. An opportunity you thought would carry your future may prove to be only a lesson. But I will not betray the good work I am forming in you. My beloved child, I am protecting something deeper than one answer. I am protecting your ability to hope without becoming naive, your ability to love without disappearing, your ability to forgive without surrendering every boundary, your ability to wait without putting your entire life on hold, your ability to receive without immediately handing control to fear. You once believed there were only two choices. Either close your heart completely so no one could hurt you again, or open it without limits so no one would leave. Neither is freedom. I am teaching you another way. You can be tender and discerning. You can be generous and still have boundaries. You can believe the best about someone while watching whether their actions support their words. You can hope for something good without forcing every sign to mean what you want it to mean. You can wait faithfully while still living fully. My beloved child, the delay has been teaching you this balance. You are not the same person who first began waiting. You notice things now that you once ignored. You recognize how exhaustion can disguise itself as loyalty. You recognize how endless endurance can disguise itself as love. You recognize how self-neglect can disguise itself as sacrifice. You recognize that being needed is not the same as being valued. These lessons may not have arrived gently, but they are becoming part of the wisdom you will carry forward. Do not despise what the waiting has formed. A tree does not apologize for growing roots before branches become visible. Roots are not glamorous. No one applauds them. But when strong wind arrives, hidden roots determine what remains standing. My beloved child, I have been deepening your roots. You have been learning how to stay steady when someone becomes distant. You have been learning how to survive a closed door without deciding that your whole future is closed. You have been learning how to let disappointment hurt without allowing it to define you. You have been learning how to return to me before returning to old habits. This is preparation. And soon the lesson will become practical. Something may ask for your answer. Someone may become disappointed because you need time. An old hope may suddenly become available again. A new opportunity may press against the part of you that fears being left behind. When that moment comes, remember what the delay has taught you. Do not sign your name with fear. Do not let pressure hold the pen. Do not let the past write the meaning of what is in front of you. My beloved child, the waiting was not blank space. It was training your hand to recognize what deserves your signature. And that is the next lesson I want to place before you. My beloved child, the waiting has trained your hand to recognize what deserves your signature. Now I want you to understand something simple. Fear will always try to sign quickly. It does not like questions. It does not like silence. It does not like time. Fear wants movement before understanding, agreement before clarity, and commitment before peace has had a chance to speak. That is why you must refuse to sign your name with fear. You have done it before without realizing it. You said yes because someone became disappointed. You stayed because leaving made you feel guilty. You answered because silence made you nervous. You accepted an apology because you wanted relief more than evidence. You called a return confirmation because your heart had once begged for that person to come back. My beloved child, I am not reminding you of this to make you ashamed. I am showing you how fear has held the pen. There is a difference between compassion and surrendering your judgment. There is a difference between forgiveness and restoring access. There is a difference between hope and handing your future to imagination. There is a difference between waiting faithfully and putting your entire life on pause. You do not have to choose between becoming hard and becoming available to everything. I am teaching you another way. You can remain tender without being easily controlled. You can care without carrying what does not belong to you. You can listen without agreeing. You can forgive without pretending that trust has already been rebuilt. You can hope without calling every familiar knock a promise. Soon something from the past may become louder. A person who was distant may suddenly become attentive. A conversation you thought was finished may reopen. An opportunity that once disappeared may return with better language. Someone may tell you that everything is different now. A deadline may make you feel that if you do not decide immediately, the chance will be gone. My beloved child, do not let urgency become the hand that moves yours. Look beyond the first words. Look at what has changed. Look at what has remained the same. Look for consistency. Look for accountability. Look for respect. Look at whether honest questions are welcomed or punished. Look at whether the person can remain steady when you do not give the answer they want. What is true does not need you to close your eyes in order to keep it. What is healthy can survive examination. What is trustworthy can survive time. Remember Gideon. He was afraid, uncertain, and aware of his weakness. Yet I did not require him to pretend that fear did not exist. I met him in the place of uncertainty and led him step by step. Courage did not mean his hands never trembled. Courage meant fear did not become his final authority. My beloved child, I am asking the same of you. You do not have to promise that you will never feel anxious again. You do not have to pretend that old memories will never rise. You do not have to become someone who never questions anything. I am asking you to return to me before returning to your old habits. When you feel pressure, pause. When you feel guilt, pause. When you feel the urge to explain everything, immediately pause. When someone becomes upset because you need time, do not assume their disappointment is proof that you are wrong. You are allowed to think. You are allowed to pray. You are allowed to ask one more question. You are allowed to wait until peace becomes deeper than your first emotion. My beloved child, an apology is not automatically change. Listen to the words, but watch what follows them. Does responsibility appear? Does behavior become different? Does the pattern change when nobody is watching? Does respect remain when you set a boundary? Do not call someone's return a sign merely because you once wanted them back. Return is movement. Restoration requires truth. Restoration requires responsibility. Restoration requires a different pattern. You have spent too much time reading large letters and ignoring the fine print. You heard "I miss you" and ignored the absence of accountability. You heard "trust me" and ignored the repeated confusion. You heard "this is your only chance" and ignored the pressure hidden beneath the promise. My beloved child read what is not being said. If someone wants your trust, are they willing to become trustworthy? If someone wants access, do they respect the door? If an opportunity wants your commitment, does it leave room for discernment? If a relationship asks for patience, does it also offer honesty? If something demands sacrifice, does that sacrifice lead toward truth or slowly erase you? These questions do not make you difficult. They make you awake. I want your amen to become more than an emotional response. I want it to become a decision that fear will not open the letter for you, a decision that pressure will not sign your name, a decision that the past will not interpret every new thing before you have seen it clearly. My beloved child, this is the shift I have been preparing, not perfection. Return. When you tremble, return to me. When you become confused, return to truth. When loneliness makes the old look beautiful, return to the whole story. When urgency becomes loud, return to stillness. When your need to be chosen becomes strong, return to the value I have been teaching you to carry. You may discover that some things leave when fear no longer signs for you. Let them leave. An invitation that survives only because you are afraid to say no is not a safe invitation. A relationship that remains only while you abandon your boundaries is not being preserved by love. An opportunity that disappears because you asked for time has given you information. My beloved child, loss is not always punishment. Sometimes loss is exposure. Sometimes the thing leaving is showing you what was holding it together, and sometimes you will be surprised by what remains. A sincere person will not need to punish you for thinking carefully. A healthy opportunity will not become offended by wisdom. A trustworthy relationship will not collapse because you asked for clarity. The right thing may challenge you, but it will not require fear to keep it alive. You are not losing your softness by becoming discerning. You are learning to protect what is sacred without becoming suspicious of everyone. Wisdom can guard the door without turning your heart into prison. Now I want you to look inward, because refusing to sign with fear is not only about what arrives at your door, it is also about what is already sitting inside your house. Old accusations, old promises, old names, old expectations. Empty chairs you have kept for people who only return when they need something from you. My beloved child, the delivery I am preparing needs room. Truth needs room. Peace needs room. And before you can receive what is next, I want to help you clear the inner table and prepare the place where the new can finally be received. My beloved child, before you can receive what is next, I want to help you clear the inner table and prepare the room where the new can finally be received. You have spent enough time asking when the delivery will arrive. Now I want you to ask whether there is space within you to hold it without immediately covering it with the weight of the past. You do not need to control what is coming. You do not need to search every road. Your responsibility is not to chase the messenger. Your responsibility is to prepare the room. My beloved child, there are old drafts still lying across the table of your heart. Words someone said that you continue to reread. Accusations you have tried to prove wrong long after the person who spoke them stopped thinking about them. Promises you still keep polished even though the one who made them stopped carrying their weight. Names you allowed other people to place upon you. Too difficult, too emotional, too much, not enough. You do not have to tear them up in anger. You only need to stop treating them as official documents, move them aside. There are also empty chairs you have kept waiting. You told yourself the chair represented hope. Sometimes it represented fear. Fear that if you removed it, you were admitting someone might never return. Fear that if you stopped expecting the apology, the years you spent waiting would feel wasted. Fear that if you stopped leaving emotional space for a certain person, you would somehow become cruel. My beloved child, an empty chair does not become sacred simply because you waited beside it for a long time. If someone only returns when they need your tenderness, that is information. If someone wants your welcome but does not want to build beside you, that is information. If someone values your availability but resists your boundaries, that is information. You need honesty. The new needs room, truth needs room, peace needs room, and sometimes making room hurts because removing what is familiar can make the house feel strangely quiet. Do not fear that quiet. You have often filled empty places quickly because emptiness made you feel abandoned. You answered messages you knew would disturb you. You returned to conversations that had already shown you their pattern. You kept old connections alive because silence felt more frightening than inconsistency. You gave your attention to problems that were not yours because being needed felt safer than being still. My beloved child, empty space is not proof that nothing is coming. Sometimes empty space is proof that you have finally stopped filling your life with what keeps you from noticing what matters. Think of the widow who gathered empty jars when Elisha told her to prepare for what would be poured. The emptiness of the vessels was not failure. Their emptiness created capacity. I want you to understand that picture. There are places in you I am not asking you to fill immediately. Let them remain open. Let the silence breathe. Let the room become unfamiliar. You may discover that what you called loneliness was partly the absence of noise you had grown used to managing. You may discover that peace feels empty at first because chaos once occupied every corner. You may discover that your mind keeps reaching for old papers simply because it does not yet know what to do with a clean table. My beloved child, I can work with space. I can plant on ground that is no longer crowded with roots from things that stopped producing fruit. I can bring clarity into a room where old voices are no longer shouting over every new thought. I can place responsibility into hands that are not still clutching what should have been released. But if you hold everything because you fear nothing else will come, you may mistake overcrowding for safety. You may call a crowded heart full when it is simply exhausted. You may call constant communication connection when it is actually confusion. You may call being needed purpose when it is only a pattern that keeps you from asking what your own life requires. My beloved child, pay attention to what drains you while making you feel important. This matters. Some of your greatest exhaustion has come from places where you were praised for carrying too much. You became the one everyone called when things fell apart. You became the one who answered first. You became the one who remembered every detail. You became the one who calmed everyone else while no one noticed how tired you had become. And because people needed you, part of you began to believe that being needed was proof of being loved. But being needed and being valued are not the same. Jesus sometimes withdrew from crowds even when people were still looking for him. Need did not automatically become his assignment. He remained attentive to the Father's direction instead of allowing every demand to decide his next step. My beloved child, you must learn this too. Another person's urgency does not automatically belong on your table. Another person's crisis does not automatically become your responsibility. Another person's disappointment does not automatically mean you must rearrange your entire life. Preparing the inner room means asking what truly belongs there. Does this conversation deserve another hour of your attention? Does this relationship bring mutual responsibility or only repeated rescue? Does this obligation come from conviction or from fear that someone will stop needing you? Does this commitment strengthen what I am building or consume the strength you will need for what comes next? The delivery that approaches requires capacity. You need strength left to receive it. You need focus left to understand it. You need enough peace to recognize whether it truly belongs. You cannot pour all your oil into lamps that others refuse to tend and then wonder why your own light feels weak. It is stewardship. You are not withdrawing love. You are learning where love belongs. You are not becoming unavailable to everyone. You are becoming unavailable to patterns that consume you without producing truth. There may be invitations ahead that look generous but are actually distractions. They may sound flattering. They may promise quick relief. They may touch the old fear that you are falling behind. They may make you feel that saying no means missing your only chance. Remember what you have learned. What belongs with you does not need to insult your discernment. It does not require you to ignore warning signs and call that faith. It does not ask you to become smaller just to remain in the room. The right door may require courage, but it will not demand the return of the version of you who survived by giving everything away. My beloved child, keep clearing the table. Let old papers lose their authority. Let empty chairs become empty without shame. Let peace have somewhere to sit. Because once the room becomes quieter, you will notice where your strength has been going, and then I will show you why you can no longer spend your life proving your worth by being needed. My beloved child, now that the inner room is becoming quieter, you can finally see something you could not see while every corner was crowded. So much of your strength has been spent trying to remain necessary to everyone around you. You learned to feel safe when someone needed your help, your patience, your answer, your ability to hold everything together. If someone called you in crisis, you responded. If a relationship became unstable, you worked harder. If another person refused responsibility, you stepped into the empty space. If everyone else became emotional, you became the calm one. My beloved child, those choices did not come from weakness. Some came from compassion. Some came from years of learning that peace in the room depended on your ability to manage what other people would not manage themselves. But love becomes distorted when your value depends on exhaustion. You were never asked to carry every unfinished responsibility someone else leaves behind. You were never meant to become the emergency system for people who repeatedly refuse to grow. There is a difference between helping someone and becoming the structure they refuse to build for themselves. I want you to notice that difference. My beloved child, you have sometimes called over-functioning faithfulness. You have called constant availability kindness. You have called self-neglect sacrifice. You have called emotional exhaustion loyalty. And because people thanked you, depended on you, or praised your strength, it became difficult to ask whether the pattern was healthy. But praise does not make imbalance holy. Think about Moses when he tried to carry the problems of the people alone. Jethro saw what Moses could not see clearly in the middle of responsibility. The burden was too heavy for one person to carry without eventually wearing himself down. Wisdom required shared responsibility. My beloved child, some burdens in your life also need to be returned to the people who actually own them. You can support without taking over. You can listen without becoming responsible for another person's choices. You can care without becoming the only one who repairs what keeps breaking. You can love someone without organizing your entire life around their refusal to become responsible. This will feel uncomfortable at first. When you stop stepping in immediately, someone may be disappointed. When you stop solving every problem, someone may accuse you of changing. When you stop answering at every hour, someone may call you distant. When you stop carrying the emotional weight of the relationship alone, the weakness in the relationship may become visible. Do not panic when that happens. Visibility is not destruction. Sometimes it is truth finally entering the room. My beloved child, if something can remain standing only while you keep bending beneath it, then your exhaustion is not proof that you should try harder. It is information. If a relationship works only because you absorb every conflict, apologize first every time, and accept less than what is honest, that pattern is showing you its foundation. If a family system remains peaceful only when you silence your needs, that peace is too expensive. If a work environment values you only when you constantly exceed what is reasonable approval, may be feeding on your depletion. You do not need to become angry to recognize this. You only need to become honest. There is another reason this matters now. What is ahead requires strength. You need energy left for prayer. You need attention left for discernment. You need emotional space to notice what is healthy, instead of reacting to whatever becomes loudest. You need enough rest to recognize whether an invitation is truly an opportunity or merely another demand wearing attractive clothing. My beloved child, some distractions will flatter the part of you that wants to feel important. They may say nobody else can do this like you. They may say everyone is counting on you. They may say if you step away now, everything will fall apart. Listen carefully. Sometimes those words are appreciation. Sometimes they are evidence that an unhealthy system has become dependent on your overgiving. Wisdom looks at the fruit. Does the responsibility help you grow, or does it consume you without end? Are others learning to carry their part or becoming more comfortable because you always carry it for them? Does the opportunity respect your limits or treat every boundary as inconvenience? Does the relationship value your presence or only your usefulness? My beloved child, being useful is not the same as being loved. Being needed is not the same as being known. Being praised for your strength is not the same as being cared for when you are tired. You deserve relationships where you can arrive as a person, not only as a solution. You deserve rooms where you are allowed to have needs. You deserve connections where responsibility moves in both directions. This does not mean every relationship will always be perfectly equal. There will be seasons when someone you love genuinely needs more support. There will be moments when compassion asks you to give deeply. But healthy love does not make permanent identity out of one person's sacrifice. It notices when you are tired. It takes responsibility when responsibility belongs there. It does not punish you for needing rest. It does not make your usefulness the price of belonging. Remember how Jesus fed crowds, healed people, taught for long hours, and still withdrew to quiet places to pray. He did not confuse constant availability with obedience. He loved deeply, but he did not allow every demand to determine his movements. My beloved child, I am teaching you that kind of freedom. You do not have to prove your goodness by draining yourself. You do not have to prove your loyalty by staying available to chaos. You do not have to prove your faith by saying yes to everything that sounds important. Sometimes the faithful answer is no. Sometimes it is not now. Sometimes it is this part belongs to you. Sometimes it is silence long enough for another person to discover their own responsibility. Do not manipulate people to test them. Do not withdraw affection to make someone chase you. Simply stop carrying the parts that were never yours. Then watch what truth reveals. Some people will step forward. Some will grow. Some will respect the new boundary. Others may resist because your exhaustion once made their life easier. Let their response give you information. My beloved child, the oil in your lamp matters. Do not pour it all into places where others deliberately refuse to tend their own flame. Guard enough strength to hear me clearly. Guard enough peace to recognize the right door. Guard enough attention to notice when something new requires courage without requiring self-betrayal. Because the next lesson is not about doing less simply to protect yourself. It is about understanding where your responsibility truly begins and where it must end. You have spent years carrying what belonged to others. Now I want to teach you how faith and responsibility can stand together without turning your life into endless rescue. My beloved child, now that you are learning where your responsibility begins and where it must end, I want to correct something gently. You have sometimes confused faith with passivity. You have called waiting peace when you were actually afraid to move. You have called surrender wisdom when you were postponing a decision you already knew needed to be made. I understand why. After carrying too much for too long, doing nothing can feel like relief. After years of fixing other people's problems, stepping back can feel spiritual. After being exhausted by control, you may think the answer is to release every responsibility and simply wait for me to arrange everything. But that is not the freedom I am teaching you. My beloved child, there are things only I can do. There are doors only I can open. There are motives only I can expose. There are outcomes you cannot force. There are hearts you cannot change. There are timings you cannot command. But there are also things I have placed in your hands. There is a word you need to speak. There is a boundary you need to maintain. There is a choice you need to make. There is a habit you need to stop feeding. Faith does not mean removing your hands from every responsibility. Faith means placing your hands where they belong and refusing to keep touching what belongs to me. Remember Nehemiah when he heard that Jerusalem's walls were broken. He prayed, but he did not use prayer as an excuse to remain inactive. He grieved. He sought wisdom. Then he stood before the king, made a request, traveled, examined the damage, and began rebuilding. Prayer prepared him for responsibility. It did not replace responsibility. My beloved child, I want you to learn that rhythm. Pray before you speak, but speak when truth has become clear. Wait when you do not know, but move when the next step has been shown. Release what you cannot control, but do not abandon what you are responsible to steward. There are times when peace looks quiet. There are other times when what you call peace is numbness. Numbness says, I do not care anymore. Peace says, I care, but I will not let fear rule me. Numbness disconnects you from your own life. Peace allows you to remain present without being consumed. Numbness avoids difficult conversations because feeling nothing seems safer than facing the truth. Peace gives you enough steadiness to say what needs to be said without turning honesty into a weapon. My beloved child, do not confuse the absence of emotion with healing. Sometimes you are not peaceful. You are simply tired. Sometimes you are not waiting on me. You are avoiding the possibility that clarity will require change. Sometimes you say, I have surrendered it, but you still check the phone, replay the conversation, study every sign, and imagine every outcome. That is not surrender. That is control wearing quieter clothes. I do not say this to shame you. I say it because control has exhausted you. You learned control during seasons when life changed without warning. A promise disappeared. Someone you trusted became distant. A plan collapsed before you were ready. So you began watching everything. You tried to anticipate every shift. You thought that if you noticed danger soon enough, pain would not surprise you again. My beloved child, control can feel responsible because it keeps you busy. You check. You analyze. You ask for reassurance. You imagine possible outcomes. You prepare responses to conversations that have not happened. But activity is not always responsibility. Sometimes it is fear trying to create certainty where certainty cannot be created. I want you to act from clarity, not panic disguised as diligence. There may be a message you do not need to send. There may be an explanation you do not need to repeat. There may be an answer you do not need to chase. There may be a situation you need to stop rescuing long enough for truth to reveal who is willing to carry their part. My beloved child, silence can be responsible when it prevents you from interfering with what time needs to expose. Not every silence is avoidance. Sometimes silence is the boundary that lets another person's maturity become visible. If you always remind them, you never learn whether they will remember. If you always repair the conflict, you never learn whether they can take responsibility. If you always make the first move, you never discover whether they are willing to move toward you. Do not manufacture tests. Do not withhold affection to provoke a reaction. Do not create confusion to see who chases you. Simply stop doing the part that was never yours, then let behavior speak. You are not being careless when you leave another adult responsible for their own choices. You are refusing to stand between them and the truth their choices produce. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step out of the space where your intervention has prevented responsibility from becoming visible to everyone involved. My beloved child, the truth may hurt. You may discover that a connection was held together mostly by your effort. You may discover that someone valued your availability more than your presence. You may discover that a situation remained stable only because you absorbed every consequence. If that happens, do not call the exposure failure. A structure that collapses when you stop carrying another person's side was already unstable. You did not destroy it by standing upright. You revealed what your constant bending had been hiding. This is why responsibility requires courage. Sometimes your responsibility is to act. Sometimes your responsibility is to stop interfering. Sometimes it is to apologize. Sometimes it is to let another person feel the natural result of their choice. Sometimes it is to work faithfully. Sometimes it is to rest before exhaustion turns service into resentment. My beloved child, I am not training you to become passive. I am training you to become precise. You do not need to do everything. You need to do what is yours. And once you have done what is yours, trust me enough not to seize what belongs in my hands. That may mean speaking one honest sentence instead of writing 10 paragraphs. It may mean holding one boundary without defending it repeatedly. It may mean completing one task instead of worrying about the entire future. It may mean making the appointment, sending the application, ending the habit, or having the conversation you have postponed. Then stop. Let the next step wait until it becomes clear. My beloved child, responsibility does not require you to control the whole journey. It requires faithfulness where your feet are standing. You are learning to live without endless rescue, endless prediction, and endless delay. And as you do, another truth will become impossible to ignore. Some of the weight you have carried for years was never yours at all. You carried it because you were afraid of what would happen if you put it down. Now I want to show you what becomes visible when you finally stop carrying what was never yours. My beloved child, now I want you to look at the weight you have been carrying and ask a difficult question. Was all of it ever yours? You became so accustomed to holding everything together that burden began to feel like identity. If someone forgot, you remembered. If someone avoided responsibility, you stepped in. If tension filled the room, you searched for the right words. If a relationship became uncertain, you worked harder so it would not fall apart. And because your effort often prevented immediate collapse, you began to believe that constant effort was love. My beloved child, I want to free you from that belief. Helping is not the same as carrying. Supporting is not the same as rescuing. Compassion is not the same as taking responsibility for choices another person keeps making. You can stand beside someone without standing in their place. You can care deeply without becoming the reason they never learn to carry their own weight. There are situations in your life where you have been doing too much for too long. You send the first message. You repair the misunderstanding. You soften the truth. You apologize for things that were not yours. You remind, encourage, arrange, explain, and absorb the discomfort so everyone else can remain comfortable. Then you wonder why you are exhausted. My beloved child, some of your exhaustion is not coming from love. It is coming from compensation. You keep filling the spaces other people refuse to fill. You keep covering responsibilities they continue to abandon. You keep giving explanations where honest behavior should have been enough. You keep adding your strength to structures that have never learned how to stand without leaning on you. This is where I want you to stop, not angrily, not dramatically, not to punish anyone. Simply stop doing what was never assigned to you. Then watch what truth reveals. If you always carry the conversation, you never discover whether the other person is willing to speak honestly. If you always repair the distance, you never discover whether they are willing to move toward you. If you always forgive without requiring accountability, you never discover whether repentance is real or whether comfort is all they wanted. If you always absorb the consequences, you never discover whether someone is willing to change. My beloved child, do not turn this into a test. Do not ignore someone to make them chase you. Do not create confusion to measure how much they care. Do not become cold so you can feel powerful. I am not teaching manipulation. I am teaching you to remove your hands from the parts you were never meant to control. Let people show you what they are willing to carry when you stop carrying it for them. This may hurt. You may discover that someone enjoyed your effort more than they valued your heart. You may discover that a relationship remained peaceful only because you swallowed every difficult truth. You may discover that a family pattern continued because you were always the one who returned first, apologized first, and made everything comfortable again. My beloved child, truth can sting when illusion has been protecting hope. But the pain of seeing clearly is often shorter than the exhaustion of maintaining what is not true. Remember the rich young ruler who came to Jesus asking what he still lacked. Jesus spoke truth with love. When the man walked away sorrowful, Jesus did not chase him down and reduce the truth just to keep him near. Love remained love, but responsibility remained where it belonged. My beloved child, there are times when you must do the same. You do not need to weaken truth to keep someone from leaving. You do not need to take back a boundary because another person dislikes it. You do not need to keep explaining until someone finally agrees that your pain was reasonable. You do not need to carry another person's discomfort simply because they are uncomfortable with your honesty. For years, you became like a beam holding up a ceiling that everyone else took for granted. You learned where to stand so the structure would not shake. You learned how much pressure you could absorb. You learned how to bend without making noise. And because the roof stayed up, people assumed everything was fine. But my beloved child, I saw the cracks forming in you. I saw the nights when you replayed every word because you were trying to prevent another conflict. I saw how carefully you studied moods so you could adjust before tension rose. I saw how quickly you blamed yourself when someone became distant. I saw how often you believed that if you stopped trying, everything would collapse. Listen carefully. If something collapses only because you finally stand upright, your standing did not destroy it. Your standing revealed how much of the structure depended on your self-abandonment. That exposure is not failure. It is information. You are not responsible for keeping alive what requires you to disappear. You are not responsible for maintaining peace that only exists when your needs remain silent. You are not responsible for holding a relationship together when the other person refuses to hold their side. You are not responsible for preventing every consequence another person creates through their own choices. My beloved child, this does not mean you stop loving. It means love becomes honest. You can offer help without becoming the permanent solution. You can forgive without returning to the same arrangement. You can be generous without allowing generosity to become entitlement. You can stay compassionate while allowing someone else to experience the weight of their own decisions. At first, this may feel cruel because your nervous system learned that everyone must be okay before you are allowed to rest. Someone may be disappointed. Someone may become quiet. Someone may say you have changed. Someone may accuse you of caring less because you are no longer overfunctioning. Do not let those reactions immediately pull you back into the old role. Pause. Ask what is actually yours. If you made a mistake, own it. If you owe an apology, give it. If you need to repair something, repair your part. Then stop. Do not take responsibility for the rest simply because waiting feels uncomfortable. My beloved child, there is freedom in discovering that you do not have to hold every roof. Some structures need to reveal their weakness. Some people need space to grow. Some relationships need truth more than another rescue. And you need enough strength left to live the life I am placing before you. As you put down what was never yours, you may feel lighter, but you may also feel exposed, because carrying other people's weight did more than exhaust you. It protected you from facing your own fear of what might happen if you stopped. That fear has been guarding an inner door for a long time. It has turned vigilance into a lock, independence into a bolt, and endurance into a wall. My beloved child, now that your hands are becoming free, I want to show you what has been holding the key inside you quietly. My beloved child, now that your hands are becoming free, I want to show you what has been holding the key inside you. You have carried burdens that were never yours, but you have also built protections that once helped you survive. Vigilance became a lock. Independence became a bolt. Endurance became a wall. I understand why. There were seasons when disappointment arrived without warning. Someone changed. A promise broke. A place that once felt safe became uncertain. So you learned to watch closely. You learned to expect the shift before it happened. You learned to need less from people because needing them felt dangerous. You learned to stay strong because strength seemed safer than being surprised again. My beloved child, I do not condemn the way you survived. Those responses helped you through nights when you did not know what else to do. But what protects you in one season can imprison you in another if you never examine whether it still belongs. A lock that kept danger out can also keep light from entering. A wall built during a storm can remain standing long after the weather has changed. This is why I am not only dealing with the doors around you, I am also touching the inner bolt. There are doors outside you that I may close. There are doors I may open. But even the right door will feel threatening if the wounded part of you still holds the key. My beloved child, return the key to me. That does not mean you lose your right to choose. It does not mean you become passive. It does not mean you ignore wisdom boundaries or what you have learned. Returning the key means fear no longer decides who enters. It means old pain no longer receives the final vote. It means your wounds are no longer allowed to act as the gatekeeper of your future. A wound recognizes what feels familiar. That is part of the problem. Something can be familiar and still be unhealthy. Something can feel strange and still be safe. When chaos was common, consistency may feel suspicious. When affection came through mixed signals, clarity may feel almost too simple. When you had to earn attention, steady love may feel less intense. Your nervous system may call the old pattern connection because it recognizes the rhythm. My beloved child, recognition is not the same as truth. Think of the Israelites after leaving Egypt. Freedom was real, yet when the wilderness became difficult, some of them remembered the old place selectively. Bondage began to look familiar enough to seem safer than uncertainty. That is what fear can do. It edits memory. It removes the pain and highlights the familiarity. It makes an old room look warmer than it was. It makes a closed door look like home simply because you know what is behind it. My beloved child, I am healing the part of you that confuses known pain with safety. I know the fear beneath your caution. You are afraid to receive something good and then lose it. You are afraid to believe someone and be abandoned again. You are afraid to relax because part of you expects the next disappointment to arrive the moment you stop watching. You can sit inside a peaceful day and still prepare for disaster. You can receive kindness and begin searching for the hidden cost. You can meet someone consistent and wonder how long it will last. You can finally see a door opening and immediately imagine the sound of it closing. My beloved child, this is exhausting. You cannot fully receive while rehearsing the moment of loss. You cannot rest while part of you is standing guard at every window. You cannot enjoy what is good if your mind keeps preparing an escape before anything has gone wrong. I want to teach you another way. Hold without gripping, love without controlling, receive without demanding guarantees, observe without becoming obsessed. Trust without turning off discernment. You do not need certainty about every tomorrow in order to be present today. Remember Peter walking on the water toward Jesus. The wind was real. The waves were real. But the moment fear became the only thing he could see, his ability to move changed. My beloved child, I am not asking you to deny the wind. I am teaching you where to keep your attention. Wisdom notices danger. Fear assumes danger everywhere. Wisdom asks questions. Fear interrogates every good thing until nothing can breathe. Wisdom watches patterns. Fear builds a verdict before time has spoken. You can be careful without becoming closed. You can be discerning without becoming suspicious of every kindness. You can protect your heart without turning your life into a fortress. This inner healing will feel unfamiliar. There may be moments when peace feels boring. Do not run back to chaos just to feel something intense. There may be moments when someone respects your boundary and you wonder whether they really care because they did not chase you. Do not mistake respect for indifference. There may be moments when a conversation is simple and clear and part of you searches for hidden meaning. Let simple be simple. My beloved child, the inner bolt will not disappear in one dramatic moment. It loosens when you make new choices. It loosens when you let a good day remain good. It loosens when you receive kindness without immediately questioning your worthiness. It loosens when you let someone prove consistency over time instead of forcing them to prove the whole future today. It loosens when you stop returning to what hurt you, merely because the new feels unfamiliar. This is what returning the key looks like. You are not throwing wisdom away. You are changing who gives the final permission. The wounded part of you can speak. You can listen to what it fears. You can honor what it survived, but it does not get to decide alone. Bring the fear to me. Name it. I am afraid this will disappear. I am afraid I will be fooled again. I am afraid that if I relax, I will miss the warning. My beloved child, honesty like that is stronger than pretending you are never afraid. I can work with truth. I can meet you in the fear without allowing fear to lead you back into the same room. You will not need to panic when feelings rise. A feeling can be remembered without being obeyed. A memory can be honored without becoming an instruction. Your body may recognize the sound before your wisdom names the pattern. Give yourself time. Let truth catch up before your hand moves. And this matters because the old may soon knock again. It may not look dangerous. It may arrive sounding softer than before. It may carry an apology. It may carry guilt. It may arrive as a memory on a lonely evening or an opportunity that looks improved because the packaging has changed. My beloved child, when that happens, the question will not only be whether you recognize what is returning. The deeper question will be who is holding the key when it reaches your door. My beloved child, when the old returns, it may not announce itself as danger. It may come gently. It may sound familiar. It may arrive with words you once prayed to hear. That is why the question from the last room matters so much. Who is holding the key when the knock reaches your door? The old rarely returns wearing the same clothes. Sometimes it comes through an apology, sometimes through a memory, sometimes through guilt, sometimes through an opportunity that looks improved because the language has changed. Sometimes it comes through your own compassion, reminding you of the version of yourself who promised never to abandon anyone. My beloved child, this is where discernment becomes personal. You may recognize that something is unhealthy and still feel pulled toward it. You may notice the inconsistency and still begin making excuses. You may feel your peace leaving and still want to say yes because you are afraid of disappointing someone. The greatest danger is not always that you fail to recognize what is false. Sometimes the greater danger is that you recognize it clearly and still open the door because you are afraid of feeling like a bad person. I know that fear. You do not want to become hard. You do not want to become unforgiving. You do not want another person to suffer because of your decision. So when someone returns with regret in their voice, the tender part of you begins moving before wisdom has finished speaking. My beloved child, mercy does not require you to betray truth. Compassion does not require immediate access. Forgiveness does not erase the need for evidence. An apology can be sincere and still need time to prove whether repentance has changed the pattern. Remember Saul after he was confronted by Samuel. Saul said words of regret, but the deeper issue was whether his heart had truly shifted toward obedience. Words mattered, but words alone could not repair what repeated choices had revealed. This is why I want you to look beyond emotion. A person may cry. A person may say they understand now. A person may promise that this time will be different. Do not mock those words. Do not harden yourself against them. But do not hand over the key simply because the moment is emotional. Let time speak. Let behavior speak. Let accountability speak. Let respect for your boundary speak. My beloved child, the old may also return through memory rather than a person. A lonely evening can make the past look warmer. A difficult day can make an old relationship seem safer than it was. A season of uncertainty can make a former opportunity look better simply because you already know its shape. Memory can become selective when you are tired. It remembers the laughter and forgets the confusion. It remembers the closeness and forgets the nights you could not rest. It remembers being wanted and forgets how often you had to guess where you stood. This is why you must remember the whole story. Do not use one beautiful memory to erase an entire pattern. Do not use one difficult night in the present to rewrite what the past repeatedly taught you. My beloved child, familiarity can be persuasive because your body remembers before your mind finishes thinking. A familiar voice can lower your guard. A familiar name can make your heart move quickly. A familiar problem can make you believe you already know how to solve it. But knowing the path back does not mean you are called to walk it again. Think of Lot's wife looking back toward the place she had been told to leave. The lesson is not that memory itself is evil. The danger is allowing attachment to what is behind you to interrupt obedience toward what is ahead. My beloved child, you can remember without returning. You can care without reopening. You can forgive without rebuilding the same arrangement. You can pray for someone without becoming responsible for their healing. You can wish them well without surrendering the peace you fought so hard to recognize. This may feel uncomfortable because your compassion was once used as a key. People learned that if they showed enough pain, you would reconsider. If they became quiet, you would reach out. If they seemed disappointed, you would soften your boundary. If they reminded you of everything you had shared, you would question whether protecting yourself was cruel. My beloved child, kindness does not mean permanent availability. You are not required to reopen every door to prove that your heart is good. Your goodness is not measured by how much confusion you allow back into your life. Your love is not measured by how much exhaustion you can survive. Your forgiveness is not measured by how quickly you restore access. Sometimes love says, I forgive you, but I still need distance. Sometimes mercy says, I hope you heal, but I cannot return to the old pattern. Sometimes wisdom says, I hear your apology, and I need time to see whether your actions become different. There is nothing cruel about truth spoken without revenge. My beloved child, pay attention to what happens inside you when the old appears. Do you immediately feel responsible for the other person's emotions? Do you begin rehearsing explanations before they have even asked? Do you feel guilty because your boundary might disappoint them? Do you fear that saying no means you have failed to love? Those reactions are not commands. They are old training. You learned them during seasons when peace in the room depended on everyone else being calm. You learned to read faces. You learned to anticipate anger. You learned to adjust quickly so tension would not grow. Those skills once helped you survive, but they must not keep deciding your future. I am not asking you to become insensitive. I am asking you to become free enough to let another adult carry their own disappointment without assuming it is your emergency. My beloved child, when the old returns in disguise, pause before you answer. Ask what has actually changed. Ask whether the pattern has changed or only the presentation. Ask whether respect is present when you need time. Ask whether responsibility is shared. Ask whether your peace deepens or disappears. Do not decide from pity. Do not decide from guilt. Do not decide because loneliness makes familiar pain feel safer than unfamiliar peace. Let truth stand beside compassion. Let wisdom stand beside mercy. Let time stand beside hope. The old may return, but it does not automatically regain access. You may still feel tenderness when you remember what was good. That tenderness does not mean you owe the past another entrance. Healing does not require you to hate what you left. It simply teaches you to stop confusing affection with permission and compassion with a command to return. You still hold responsibility for the door. And now I want to teach you how to protect what is being restored without turning your heart cold. The next step is not a wall. It is a boundary. A boundary that knows when to open, when to wait, and when to remain closed. My beloved child, a boundary is not a wall built from anger. It is a door that has learned wisdom. It knows when to open, when to wait, and when to remain closed. After everything you have survived, I do not want your heart sealed away. I want what is being restored within you, protected from the patterns that once entered without asking. You were not born believing that every disappointed face was your responsibility. You learned that. There were seasons when peace in the room depended on how quickly you adjusted yourself. You learned to notice a change in someone's voice before they explained what was wrong. You learned to read expressions. You learned to anticipate anger. You learned to choose words carefully so tension would not grow. Sometimes you apologized first because you wanted the conflict to end. Sometimes you accepted blame that was not entirely yours because another person's silence felt unbearable. My beloved child, those reactions were not proof that something was wrong with you. They were ways you learned to survive uncertainty. I saw when you learned them. I saw how being sensitive to everyone else's emotions helped you move through rooms that did not always feel safe. But what once helped you survive can become a burden when you carry it into every relationship. You still feel responsible when someone becomes upset because of your decision. You still wonder whether a simple "no" needs a long explanation. You still write a message, delete it, rewrite it, and search for words gentle enough to keep another person from feeling any discomfort. You still sometimes believe that if someone pulls away after you speak honestly, then honesty must have been the mistake. My beloved child, I want to separate those things for you. Another person's discomfort is not automatic evidence that you have done something wrong. A boundary can disappoint someone and still be healthy. A truthful answer can create tension and still be loving. A pause can frustrate someone and still be wise. You are allowed to protect what I am restoring within you. Think about Nehemiah rebuilding the wall around Jerusalem. The wall was not built because the people hated everyone outside it. It was built because what had been broken needed protection while order was restored. Gates still existed. Life still moved in and out, but access was no longer careless. My beloved child, that is the picture I want you to hold. A healthy boundary is not hatred. It is ordered access. It says you may speak to me, but you may not insult me. It says I can care about you, but I cannot carry your responsibilities. It says I can forgive you, but trust will need time. It says I can hear your disappointment without making it my command. It says I can love you and still say no. Some people will not understand this change. Those who are accustomed to immediate access may call your pause distance. Those who are used to your endless explanations may call your clarity coldness. Those who benefited from your overgiving may call your limits selfishness. Those who could enter your emotional house whenever they wanted may feel offended when they discover the door now has a working lock. My beloved child, do not accept every label simply because someone says it with confidence. Ask what the boundary is protecting. Is it protecting your sleep? Is it protecting your honesty? Is it protecting your ability to think before answering? Is it protecting your family, your work, your health, your prayer, or the peace that has taken so long to become familiar? If the boundary exists to punish someone, examine your heart. If it exists to control someone's behavior, correct it. If it exists because you want revenge, bring that anger to me. But if the boundary exists so that truth, dignity, responsibility, and peace can remain in the room, do not tear it down simply because someone dislikes it. My beloved child, remember how Jesus did not give the same level of access to everyone. He loved crowds, taught many, walked closely with a smaller group, and shared certain moments with only a few. Love was wide. Access was not identical. You can learn from that without becoming suspicious. Not everyone belongs in the same room of your life. Not everyone who knows your name needs access to your deepest fears. Not everyone who apologizes immediately returns to the place they once held. Not everyone who needs you is entitled to you. This is maturity. It is not cruelty. The old version of you may resist this. You may feel guilt after holding a boundary. You may hear a voice inside saying, maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I should send another message. Maybe I should explain one more time. Maybe I should reopen the door so they know I am still a good person. My beloved child, goodness does not require you to abandon wisdom. You do not need to tear down the door to prove your heart is soft. Let your kindness remain. Let your compassion remain. Let your willingness to forgive remain, but let the lock work. A lock that never functions is only decoration. When someone respects your boundary, notice it. When someone gives you time without punishing you, notice it. When someone hears no without attacking your character, notice it. When someone accepts responsibility instead of making you carry their feelings, notice it. These are important signs. They tell you whether a person respects the house or only enjoys unrestricted access to it. My beloved child, boundaries also protect you from yourself. Sometimes you are the one tempted to reopen what should remain closed. Loneliness can make you reach for an old conversation. Guilt can make you take back a decision that was made in clarity. Fear can make you say yes after peace already helped you say no. A boundary reminds you of what you knew before emotion became loud. Write down the truth if you need to. Remember why the decision was made. Do not let one lonely evening rewrite an entire pattern. You are learning that protecting peace is not rejecting people. It is refusing to let old access destroy new healing inside you again. This is how what is being restored becomes stronger. Not because you never feel conflicted again, not because everyone agrees with you, but because you stop making every uncomfortable feeling an emergency. You learn that someone can be disappointed and you can still be at peace. You learn that someone can misunderstand you and you can survive without chasing their approval. You learn that love can remain in your heart while access changes. My beloved child, this new strength may feel unfamiliar. That matters, because the next challenge will be recognizing that what feels familiar is not always what is safe. Your body may trust an old rhythm simply because it knows the steps. Your heart may react strongly to what once kept it waiting. But safety speaks another language. It speaks through consistency, respect, clarity, and room to breathe. And that is the language I want to teach you next. My beloved child, now I want you to learn a distinction that will protect you from repeating what once felt normal. Familiar is not the same as safe. Your body can recognize a pattern before your mind has time to examine it. A certain tone of voice can pull you backward. A certain kind of attention can feel powerful because it resembles something you once called love. A familiar silence can make you start guessing again. A familiar distance can make you work harder for closeness. That recognition can feel like connection, but recognition is not always truth. My beloved child, you may have lived through relationships where affection came mixed with uncertainty. One day you felt wanted. The next day you felt confused. One conversation brought warmth. The next brought distance. Your heart learned to watch carefully. Your body learned to wait for the shift. Over time, emotional intensity began to feel like depth. Mixed signals began to feel like mystery. Waiting began to feel like devotion. Having to guess what someone felt began to feel like intimacy. That is why peace can feel strange when it first arrives. Something consistent may seem almost too simple. Someone who says what they mean may not create the same emotional rush. A person who respects your boundary may not chase you when you ask for space. A healthy conversation may end without hours of analyzing what was really meant. My beloved child, do not mistake the absence of chaos for the absence of love. Safety often feels quieter than what hurt you. Think of Elijah when he stood before the wind, the earthquake, and the fire. The loudest movement was not where he learned to recognize my voice. What mattered came with a quieter clarity. You have often been trained to notice what is loud. I am teaching you to notice what is steady. Safety does not appear only when circumstances are easy. It remains respectful when disappointment arrives. It does not punish you with silence because you asked a question. It does not turn your compassion into a debt. It does not require you to shrink your needs so someone will stay. It does not keep you standing on your toes wondering whether today's warmth will become tomorrow's withdrawal. My beloved child, safety gives you room to breathe. That does not mean there will never be conflict. Healthy people can misunderstand each other. Good opportunities can require difficult work. The right door can still ask courage from you. But healthy difficulty is different from chronic confusion. A hard conversation can still contain respect. A challenging season can still contain honesty. A relationship can experience tension without making you fear that every disagreement will cost you the connection. Learn to notice the difference. Familiar pain often creates urgency. It tells you to fix the distance immediately. It tells you to send another message. It tells you to explain before the other person has even asked. It tells you that if you do not act now, you will lose everything. My beloved child, what is safe does not need panic to hold your attention. What is true can withstand a pause. It can withstand prayer. It can withstand honest questions. It can withstand the passage of time. This is why I want you to stop measuring every new thing by the strength of your first feeling. A powerful emotion may tell you that something matters. It does not automatically tell you what the thing means. Sometimes excitement is hope. Sometimes it is an old nervous system recognizing a familiar pattern. Sometimes fear is discernment. Sometimes it is memory trying to protect you from something that has not happened. You need time to tell the difference. Remember Ruth entering a future she could not fully predict. She did not build her next season on emotional intensity. She walked through loyalty, character work, patience, and visible integrity. What became meaningful was revealed through steady actions. My beloved child, watch steady actions. Do not be impressed only by a strong beginning. Anyone can speak beautifully for one evening. Anyone can become attentive when they fear losing access. Anyone can make a promise when emotion is high. Look at what remains when the moment becomes ordinary. Does respect remain? Does communication remain clear? Does responsibility remain shared? Does the person still honor your no when it is inconvenient? Does the opportunity still make sense after the excitement fades? Does the path still allow you to remain honest about who you are? Safety reveals itself through consistency. You will have to relearn what attraction feels like when anxiety is no longer mixed into it. You will have to relearn what peace feels like when you are no longer waiting for another person to change mood. You will have to relearn what intimacy feels like when clarity replaces guessing. At first, this may feel less dramatic. Do not run back to confusion just because calm feels unfamiliar. My beloved child, some old patterns created emotional waves so strong that quiet love can seem small beside them. But a storm can create powerful waves without becoming a safe place to live. You are not looking for the biggest wave. You are learning where you can build. Notice what happens in your body around different people and decisions. Do you feel free to speak honestly? Can you ask for time without being punished? Can you make a mistake without fearing abandonment? Can you disagree without being forced to prove your loyalty again? Can you rest without wondering what is happening behind your back? These questions matter. Your body may still react before your wisdom answers. That is okay. Healing does not mean every old reaction disappears immediately. It means you stop treating every reaction as an instruction. Let the feeling rise, then let truth examine it. Ask what is happening now, not only what happened before. Ask whether there is evidence. Ask whether the pattern is consistent. Ask whether you are being respected. Ask whether peace becomes clearer after you slow down. My beloved child, this is how discernment is recalibrated. You are not becoming less loving. You are becoming less available to confusion. You are not losing passion. You are learning that passion without stability can consume more than it builds. You are not becoming suspicious of everyone. You are learning to let time reveal character before emotion gives away the key. And there will be moments when this new rhythm requires a simple sentence. Someone may want an answer before you are ready. An opportunity may arrive with a deadline. A familiar person may want immediate access to the place they once occupied. Your old training may tell you to hurry so nobody becomes disappointed. My beloved child, you will need a new response. A response that gives truth enough room to speak. A response that protects your freedom to pray, observe, and decide without panic. Sometimes that response will be only 3 words. Those words may feel uncomfortable at first because you once learned that making someone wait could cost you connection. But discomfort is not danger. Sometimes it is simply freedom becoming unfamiliar. I need time. My beloved child, I need time. Those words may feel simple when you hear them, but I know they can feel heavy. You learn to answer quickly because delay once felt dangerous. You learn to explain yourself because another person's disappointment could make your body tense. So when you say, I need time, part of you may want to add an apology. I am sorry. I know this is inconvenient. I do not want you to think I am difficult. I just need a little more time because of everything I have been through. My beloved child, listen to me. You do not need to put yourself on trial every time you need space to think. You do not need to present your history as evidence that your pause is reasonable. You do not need to prove that you are a good person before asking for time. If something concerns the door of your life, you are allowed to examine the key. You are allowed to listen to what moves inside the lock. You are allowed to ask whether the person knocking respects the house I am restoring. You are allowed to pray before you answer. You are allowed to sleep before you decide. You are allowed to let the first wave of emotion pass. My beloved child, needing time is not rejection. Sometimes it is wisdom. Sometimes it is how you prevent fear from signing your name before truth has finished speaking. False urgency does not like this. False urgency becomes uncomfortable when you pause. It tells you the opportunity will disappear. It tells you the person will change their mind. It tells you that you will be misunderstood. It tells you that if you do not answer now, everything you hoped for will move on without you. Notice what that pressure does inside your body. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your thoughts become crowded. You start imagining consequences before you have even understood the decision. You begin negotiating against yourself. You lower your standards before anyone has asked you to. You start writing a yes while your heart is still asking questions. My beloved child, that is when you must put the pen down. Breathe. Let the room become quiet. What belongs with you will not require you to abandon discernment in order to keep it. Remember Esther before she approached the king. The situation carried real urgency, but she did not rush forward carelessly. She prepared, she fasted, she gathered others to pray. Then she stepped into the moment with courage. Urgency did not remove preparation. Courage did not require panic. My beloved child, there are situations in life that truly need a quick response. I am not teaching you to delay every decision. I am teaching you to recognize the difference between clarity and pressure. True guidance can be firm. It may tell you to speak today. It may tell you to leave. It may tell you to act before you feel comfortable. But beneath the trembling, there will be a deeper steadiness. False pressure pushes from behind. It makes you afraid to stop. It makes you believe looking carefully will cost you everything. My guidance calls from ahead. It may challenge you, but it allows your eyes to remain open. One forces, the other illuminates. My beloved child, you have spent years confusing someone else's urgency with your responsibility. A person becomes upset and you believe you must fix it immediately. A message arrives late at night and you feel you must respond before sleeping. Someone says, "Decide now," and your body reacts as though delay means danger. An opportunity says, "This is your only chance," and suddenly you forget every question you intended to ask. This is how fear steals decision-making, not always by shouting, sometimes by making delay feel morally wrong. But taking time does not make you selfish. It does not make you ungrateful. It does not make you disloyal. My beloved child, the right person may prefer a faster answer, but they will not need to punish you for thinking. The right opportunity may have a real deadline, but it will not require you to ignore warning signs. The right relationship may involve difficult decisions, but it will not make your dignity the price of staying connected. You are learning to stop confusing pressure with proof. If someone says they love you, let their response to your boundary teach you something. If they respect your need for time, notice it. If they become insulting, manipulative, or threatening because you did not answer, immediately notice that too. Time does not only help you think, time reveals. It reveals whether someone's kindness survives disappointment. It reveals whether an offer remains reasonable after excitement settles. It reveals whether an apology becomes accountability. It reveals whether your own desire is rooted in peace or in fear of missing out. My beloved child, this is why you do not need to over-explain your pause. The more afraid you are of disappointing someone, the more words you may want to use. You begin writing paragraphs. You explain every wound. You describe every mistake. You try to make your boundary impossible to disagree with, but you cannot explain yourself into approval. Someone may still dislike your answer. Someone may still misunderstand your caution. Someone may still decide that your need for time is inconvenient. Let them have their reaction. You are responsible for honesty. You are not responsible for controlling how honesty feels to everyone who hears it. Say what is true, say it kindly, then let it stand. My beloved child, sometimes the strongest response is simple. I need time. I will think about it. I am not ready to answer tonight. I want to pray before I decide. I need more information. These sentences do not require a courtroom afterward. You do not owe 10 explanations for one honest boundary. At first, silence after those words may make you uncomfortable. You may want to fill the space. Do not rush. Let the silence breathe. Watch what happens. A healthy person can remain present without forcing the next sentence out of you. A healthy opportunity can survive examination. Truth does not become less true because you waited until morning. My beloved child, when pressure rises, remember that you still hold responsibility for your signature. Do not let guilt move your hand. Do not let loneliness move it. Do not let another person's disappointment become the ink. Let clarity write slowly. Let peace become deeper than urgency. And if the answer becomes yes, let it be an yes. If the answer becomes no, let it be a clean no. If the answer is not yet, let not yet remain enough. You are learning to choose without abandoning yourself. But there is another habit beneath urgency that I must help you release. You learn to believe that if you watched every detail, anticipated every outcome, and kept your hand near the door, you could prevent surprise from hurting you again. My beloved child, that is control. And in the next room, I want to teach you what happens when you stop stirring the water long enough for it to become clear. My beloved child, you have spent time trying to keep the water moving because stillness once felt unsafe. If you kept checking, thinking, predicting, and preparing, perhaps nothing could surprise you again. That is what control promised. It promised protection. It promised that if you watched closely enough, pain would never arrive without warning. But control cannot give you certainty. It can only give you the temporary feeling that you are doing something. You have lived through moments when everything changed before you could prepare. A promise was withdrawn. Someone who felt close became distant. A plan you trusted broke apart. A future you pictured disappeared before you understood what had happened. My beloved child, those experiences taught your mind to stay awake even when the room was quiet. You began studying every change in tone. You noticed every delay. You prepared for every possible ending. You tried to imagine the worst before the worst could imagine you. Part of you believed that if you anticipated enough, you would never feel powerless again. I understand why, but the price has been too high. You can sit inside a peaceful afternoon while your mind lives through disasters that have not happened. You can receive something good and immediately calculate when it might leave. You can meet someone sincere and still search for betrayal. You can see a door opening and spend all your strength checking whether it might suddenly close. My beloved child, control promises to protect you from surprise, but it steals your ability to be present. It turns your inner house into a guard station. Every window becomes something to monitor. Every sound becomes something to interpret. Every silence becomes a possible warning. Every good moment becomes temporary in your mind before it has even had time to become real. That is not peace. And I am not asking you to become careless. I am teaching you a different way to remain awake. Wisdom observes without becoming obsessed. Wisdom asks necessary questions and then listens to the answers. Wisdom watches behavior over time instead of building an entire verdict from a moment. Wisdom notices intuition, but it does not allow old memory to dress itself in. My voice. My beloved child, when you are uncertain, do not always follow the strongest feeling. Strong does not always mean true. Urgent does not always mean important. Fear does not automatically mean danger. Excitement does not automatically mean direction. Let the water settle. Think of the disciples in the boat when the storm rose around them. They saw wind and waves and believed the danger in front of them was the whole story. Jesus was present even while they were afraid. The storm was real, but panic was not required to become their master. My beloved child, your fear may be real, your uncertainty may be real, your questions may be real, but panic does not have to decide what those things mean. You do not need to stir the water again to make sure truth is still there. Truth will remain when the noise becomes quiet. What is real will still be real after you sleep. What is healthy will still be able to stand after you stop checking it. What belongs with you will not become false simply because you took your hands off it long enough to breathe. This is where releasing control becomes practical. When you want to check the message again, pause. When you want to ask for reassurance one more time, pause. When your mind begins building a future from one small change, return to what you actually know. Separate facts from fear. Separate evidence from prediction. Separate what has happened from what your mind is rehearsing. My beloved child, sometimes you will discover that there is nothing more to do today that can feel uncomfortable. You are used to solving. You are used to managing. You are used to believing that motion means responsibility. But sometimes responsibility means stopping. Sometimes wisdom is to send the message once and wait. Sometimes it is to ask the question and listen instead of filling the silence. Sometimes it is to complete your part and leave another person responsible for theirs. Sometimes it is to go to sleep without checking whether everything has changed since the last time you looked. Rest is not negligence. Stillness is not weakness. You do not have to keep touching something to prove you care about it. Remember how farmers cannot pull on a seed to make it grow faster. They prepare the soil, plant water, and then allow hidden work to happen beyond their control. My beloved child, some things in your life also need space to grow without your hands constantly disturbing the ground. You have prayed, you have spoken, you have asked, you have worked. Now there are moments when your next act of faith is to stop interfering. This does not mean you ignore problems. If something requires action, act. If a boundary is being crossed, address it. If information is missing, ask for it. If responsibility belongs to you, carry it. But after you have done what is yours, do not keep inventing work because uncertainty makes you uncomfortable. Control often disguises itself as responsibility. It says, check again, think again, ask again, prepare for another possibility, review the conversation one more time. But if nothing new has happened, you are not gathering wisdom. You may only be feeding fear. My beloved child, I want you to notice the difference. Wisdom becomes clearer as it gathers truth. Control becomes more exhausted as it gathers possibilities. Wisdom can stop. Control always needs one more check. Wisdom can say, I know enough for today. Control says if I stop, something terrible may happen while I am not watching. This is why letting the water settle is an act of trust. You are saying that truth does not depend on your anxiety to remain visible. You are saying that my guidance will not disappear because you rested. You are saying that you do not need to rehearse pain in order to survive pain if it ever comes. My beloved child, you are allowed to live with greater peace before every question is answered. You are allowed to enjoy what is good without preparing for its ending. You are allowed to receive kindness without searching for the hidden cost. You are allowed to let a peaceful day remain peaceful. At first, your mind may resist. It may return to old questions. Bring it back gently. What do I know now? What is mine to do now? What can wait until tomorrow? Those questions will protect you from drowning in possibilities. And as the water settles, something else will become easier to see. There are times when you truly need to wait because the next step is not clear. But there are also times when the next step has already been shown and control keeps asking for more signs because obedience feels uncomfortable. My beloved child, once the water is clear, waiting can no longer be used to hide from what you already know. That is the next truth I want to show you. My beloved child, now that the water has begun to settle, you can see something clearly. There are moments when waiting is wisdom, and there are moments when waiting becomes a hiding place. You have sometimes called delay surrender because saying that sounded holier than admitting you were afraid to move. I understand why. Obedience can be uncomfortable. A clear answer can still make your hands tremble. A necessary conversation can still make your stomach tighten. A boundary can be right and still make you feel guilty. My beloved child, discomfort does not always mean you need another sign. Sometimes discomfort simply means the next faithful step is asking you to leave an old pattern. You have prayed about things I have already made clear. You have asked me to confirm what has been confirmed through time, through fruit, through peace, and through consequences you have seen. Then when the answer remained the same, you asked again. Not because I had become unclear, because obedience had not become easier. My beloved child, do not use spirituality to conceal fear. There are times when you need to wait. If the path is unclear, do not force it. If information is missing, gather it. If peace has not settled, do not pretend certainty. But there are also times when asking for another sign becomes postponing the responsibility in front of you. You know the conversation, you know the no, you know the habit, you know the place in your mind you keep returning to, even though nothing new is there. This is where surrender must become practical. Think of Jonah. He knew the direction he had been given, but knowing did not make obedience comfortable. He chose another route because distance felt easier than the assignment. Yet running did not remove the truth. It only made the journey heavier. My beloved child, there are places where you have done something similar. You have called avoidance waiting. You have called fear discernment. You have called repeated hesitation prayerfulness. You have hoped I would change the instruction so you would not have to change your behavior. But truth does not become less true because you delay responding to it. If you know you need to apologize, apologize. If you know you need to stop contacting someone, stop feeding the loop. If you know a boundary has been crossed repeatedly, stop pretending one more conversation will create a pattern that never existed. If you know your body needs rest, stop calling exhaustion devotion. If you know a habit is stealing your peace, stop asking whether you should keep giving it another week. My beloved child, obedience does not always arrive with confidence. Sometimes it arrives with trembling. Sometimes courage is simply doing what is clear while your emotions are still catching up. You have waited before because you wanted certainty about the outcome. You wanted to know how the other person would react. You wanted to know whether the door would stay open. You wanted to know whether saying no would cost you connection. You wanted to know whether leaving would create regret. But responsibility does not always come with advanced knowledge of consequences. Sometimes I give you light for the step, not the entire road. Remember Abraham leaving what was familiar without receiving a complete map of every mile ahead. The call came before the full picture. Trust was expressed through movement. My beloved child, I am not asking you to act recklessly. I am asking you to stop demanding certainty before obeying what has become repeatedly clear. There is a difference. Recklessness ignores wisdom. Faithful movement listens carefully and then moves. Recklessness rushes because it cannot tolerate waiting. Delayed obedience waits because it cannot tolerate discomfort. Both can be driven by fear. Wisdom knows when to pause and when to stand up. You will recognize the difference by what has been confirmed over time. Has the same truth returned when your emotions were calm? Has the same pattern continued despite repeated explanations? Has your peace consistently weakened when you ignore what you know? Has your life become clearer whenever you honor the boundary? Has the same conviction remained after sleep, prayer, and honest reflection? My beloved child, repeated clarity matters. You do not need a dramatic sign. Sometimes the sign is the pattern. Sometimes the sign is the fruit. Sometimes the sign is that the same truth has remained steady while your excuses keep changing. Do not wait for obedience to feel painless. If you do, fear may keep moving the finish line. Today you need one more sign. Tomorrow you need one more conversation. Next week you need one more chance. Soon a year has passed and the truth is still standing where you left it. My beloved child, I am not rushing you. I am calling you out of unnecessary delay. There is a difference between being pressured and being invited forward. Pressure says, move before you can think. Guidance says, you have thought long enough, now walk. Pressure creates confusion. Guidance may create trembling, but it also carries clarity. This is where the key matters again. You thought the key existed to open new doors, but the key also closes what should no longer govern your life. It locks the room where shame used to speak first. It locks the door to conversations that survive only by reopening wounds. It locks access to habits that keep stealing your sleep. It locks the path back to places where you already learned the lesson. My beloved child, closing a door does not mean you hate what was behind it. It means you no longer live there. You can bless the past without renting another room inside it. You can remember what happened without making memory your residence. You can forgive someone without leaving the back door unlocked. You can feel sadness and still keep walking. That is obedience with maturity. There may be one step in front of you now that you already know. Do not make it larger than it is. You may not need to change your whole life tonight. You may need to send one honest message. Keep one no, delete one number, turn off one screen, make one appointment, finish one task. Stop revisiting one old conversation. My beloved child, movement begins with what is clear. Do not despise a small act because it does not feel dramatic. A small act can close an old loop. A simple boundary can return hours of peace. One honest conversation can end months of pretending. One responsible decision can become evidence that fear no longer holds the key. And once you begin obeying what has already become clear, you will look back differently at the waiting. You will see that some delays were not abandonment. They were seasons in which the house within you was being repaired. The cracks were being revealed. The windows were being opened. The old walls were being examined. My beloved child, that is what I want to show you next. Not only what you must leave behind, but how much of the inner house has already been restored while you thought you were only waiting. My beloved child, now I want you to look around the house within you and notice what has changed. You thought the waiting was only delay. You thought nothing was happening because no great answer had arrived. But while you were watching the door, I was repairing the rooms. There were meetings I did not allow to happen because you were still willing to agree just to avoid feeling left behind. There were doors I allowed to remain closed because you had not yet learned the difference between attention and genuine care. There were people who left and you called their departure loss, but I could see the deeper disorder their presence would have carried into your life. My beloved child, you asked why I did not make them stay. You asked why I did not make them understand you. You asked why I did not answer the prayer in the shape you expected. But I was looking at the whole house. You were looking at one room. I knew that if something precious arrived too early, you might use it to prove your worth instead of receive it with peace. You might place a new gift in a room still crowded with old voices. You might step into a new responsibility while still needing everyone around you to approve every move. So the waiting was not empty. It was repair. Some repairs were quiet. Some were painful. Some made the house look worse before it looked better. That is what happens when hidden damage is finally uncovered. A wall may need to be opened before the broken place behind it can be reached. A window may need to be cleaned before light can enter clearly. Dust becomes visible when sunlight touches the room. The light did not create the dust. It revealed what had been there all along. My beloved child, that is what truth has been doing in you. When you began noticing how much you over-explained the problem was not newly created, you were finally seeing it. When you realized how quickly rejection could control your mood, the weakness had not suddenly appeared. The light had reached it. When you noticed that chaos felt strangely familiar, that recognition was not failure, it was evidence that healing had made you aware. Remember how Josiah responded when the forgotten book of the law was found during the repair of the temple. The truth had been there, but the people had lived without seeing how far they had drifted. Discovery brought grief, but grief became the beginning of correction. My beloved child, revelation can feel uncomfortable before it feels freeing. Do not confuse discomfort with destruction. I am not tearing you apart. I am showing you what no longer needs to remain hidden. The old walls built from fear are coming down. The covered windows are opening. Rooms that were once filled with accusations are becoming quieter, and you may already be noticing the changes. You do not feel the same need to explain yourself to everyone. A conversation that once occupied your mind for days may now trouble you for only a few hours. Someone becoming distant can still hurt, but it no longer destroys your sense of worth. You are becoming tired of cycles that once felt exciting. You are less impressed by intensity that comes without consistency. You may still miss someone, but you no longer want to become the version of yourself you had to be beside them. My beloved child, do not call that hardness. That is healing. Hardness says, I will never care again. Healing says, I care, but I will not abandon myself again. Hardness closes every window. Healing learns which windows should open and which doors need a lock. Hardness refuses love. Healing refuses confusion disguised as love. The old door does not lose its power because it disappears. It loses its power when you can see it, remember what was behind it, and no longer desire to live there. That is a deeper freedom. I do not need to erase every memory. I do not need to make you hate everyone who hurt you. I do not need to remove every feeling before you move forward. I only need to heal the part of you that once believed the past was the only place where you could belong. My beloved child, when the house within you becomes warmer, you stop being tempted by every place simply because the lights are on. When you know your worth, vague invitations lose some of their charm. When peace becomes familiar, punitive silence stops looking mysterious. When consistency becomes normal, mixed signals stop feeling romantic. When truth becomes welcome, confusion stops feeling deep. This is how patterns lose their power, not through one dramatic announcement, through repeated moments when you respond differently. You notice the old pull and do not obey it. You feel the old fear and do not build your future around it. You remember the old person and do not reopen the old arrangement. You hear criticism and no longer spend the whole night proving yourself to someone who has already decided not to understand. My beloved child, these are repairs. Do not overlook them because they are quiet. A repaired foundation is rarely the part of a house people admire first, but everything above it depends on what has been strengthened below. I have been strengthening what no one else could see. Your ability to pause, your ability to say no, your ability to receive kindness without immediately becoming suspicious. Your ability to let another person carry their own emotions. Your ability to remain present when someone disagrees with you. Your ability to walk away from confusion without creating a final dramatic scene. My beloved child, you are becoming less controlled by the need to be understood by everyone. You are not becoming unreachable. You are becoming anchored. And an anchored heart can welcome love, correction, opportunity, and change without allowing every outside voice to rearrange the foundation beneath it. That does not mean wise counsel no longer matters. It does. You still need people who bear good fruit. You still need voices that can tell you the truth without flattering you. You still need correction when you are wrong. You still need community. But counsel is not the same as permission. Someone can love you deeply and still not be the person who holds the key to your life. Someone can know you for many years and still see you through an outdated version of who you used to be. Someone can speak confidently and still be mistaken. My beloved child, the repaired house must learn this too. You can listen without surrendering responsibility. You can receive advice without handing over your discernment. You can honor someone without making their approval the condition for your obedience. What has been rebuilt within you is strong enough to hear another voice without losing your own place before me. And that is the next lesson I want to show you. How to receive counsel with humility while refusing to turn another person's opinion into permission for the life I have entrusted to you. My beloved child, I want to teach you how to listen without surrendering the key. Wise counsel matters. But counsel is not permission. Someone can care about you deeply and still not be called to decide your life. Someone can know your history and still misunderstand your future. Someone can speak with confidence and still be wrong. You do not need to reject advice just because you are learning to trust your discernment. You also do not need to obey every opinion simply because it comes from someone you respect. Listen, pray, examine the fruit. Then remember that responsibility before me still belongs to you. Think of Paul when people warned him about hardship ahead. He listened. He did not mock their concern. He understood the love beneath their words, but he also knew the direction he had been given. Their concern mattered, yet it could not become permission over his obedience. My beloved child, there will be moments when people who love you are uncomfortable with the version of you that is emerging. They knew the version who always answered. They knew the version who apologized quickly. They knew the version who returned after every hurt. They knew the version who made room for everyone before asking whether there was room left for you. When that version changes, some people will feel the difference. They may say you are distant. They may say you are difficult now. They may say you think too much. They may say you used to be easier to talk to. Listen for anything true. If you have become harsh, correct it. If pride has entered, humble yourself. If fear has made you suspicious of everyone, bring that fear to me. But do not return to self-abandonment simply because someone misses the version of you that had no boundaries. My beloved child, growth changes relationships. Some relationships become stronger because truth finally has room to breathe. Some become more honest because responsibility is no longer one-sided. Some people adjust because they truly love you. Others resist because the old arrangement benefited them. Let resistance give you information. Do not use it as automatic proof that you are right, but do not ignore what it reveals either. If a relationship survives only when you are predictable, endlessly available, and willing to return after every injury, then your growth may expose what the relationship was built upon. What has a true foundation can adapt to honesty. What depends on your lack of boundaries will often experience your healing as a threat. My beloved child, you do not need to shrink back into an old room just so someone else does not have to update the way they see you. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to become harder to manipulate. You are allowed to become slower to agree. You are allowed to ask questions you once swallowed. You are allowed to say that no longer works for me. This does not make you superior. It makes you responsible for the life I have entrusted to you. There is another place where you must guard the key: comparison. You look at the house next door and wonder why their delivery arrived first. You see someone enter a relationship you prayed for. You see someone receive an opportunity while your own path still feels quiet. You see a door open for another person and begin wondering whether yours has been locked forever. My beloved child, comparison makes you abandon your own construction site to stare at someone else's finished room. You do not know what I prepared in them before the door opened. You do not know what responsibility came with what they received. You do not know what private battles shaped their capacity. And they do not know the cracks I have been repairing in your foundation. Every delivery has its own timing. Every calling has its own weight. Every relationship has its own stewardship. Every open door carries responsibilities that are invisible from the hallway. Remember David, he was anointed long before he sat on the throne. Another person's position did not cancel what had been spoken over his life. The waiting between promise and responsibility formed things in him that public success could not create. My beloved child, do not use another person's timing as evidence against your own. Their arrival is not your rejection. Their open door is not proof of your closed future. Their season does not measure your worth. Stay in your house. Tend what I have placed in front of you. Keep repairing what still needs attention. Keep learning to recognize peace. Keep becoming someone who can carry what you once only knew how to ask for. The delivery drawing near is not merely an external answer. It is an alignment. What I prepare must meet the person you are becoming. A healthy connection means little if you still abandon yourself to keep it. A new responsibility can become another prison if you still use achievement to prove your worth. An opportunity can become another source of anxiety if control still holds the key. My beloved child, this is why counsel cannot become permission and comparison cannot become direction. You need enough inner steadiness to receive without immediately asking everyone else whether you are allowed to trust what is unfolding. You can seek wisdom without handing over authority. You can ask trusted people what they see. You can receive correction. You can reconsider. You can change your mind. Humility is not the loss of discernment. Humility is the willingness to remain teachable while still taking responsibility for the choice that follows. Pay attention to the fruit of counsel. Healthy counsel helps you see more clearly. It does not make you dependent on the counselor. It does not punish you for choosing differently. It does not use fear to make itself important. It does not demand access to every decision. A wise voice can warn you and still respect your responsibility. A controlling voice needs your obedience in order to feel valuable. My beloved child, learn the difference. The people who truly desire what is good for you will not need to hold the key to prove they matter. They can stand beside you without steering every step. They can ask questions without writing your answer. They can speak truth without trying to own the outcome. Receive that kind of counsel with gratitude. Then return to me. Let prayer quiet the noise of approval and fear. Let time reveal what advice still carries wisdom after emotion settles. Let the fruit of your choices teach you. You are not alone, but neither are you meant to live by committee. My beloved child, the repaired house is learning how to welcome wise voices without giving them ownership. And as that lesson becomes steady, you will be ready for the deeper meaning of the delivery. It is not only about receiving something new, it is about receiving it without losing yourself, without proving your worth through it, and without handing its stewardship to fear. That is what I want to show you next. My beloved child, now you are ready to understand the meaning of the delivery. It is not only about something arriving, it is about what happens inside you when it arrives. A door can open and still become another place of fear if you enter it needing to prove your worth. A relationship can begin and still become exhausting if you believe love must be secured through constant sacrifice. An opportunity can be good and still become heavy if you turn it into evidence that you are finally enough. What I prepare must meet the person you are becoming. My beloved child, the right door is not only the door that opens, it is the door you can walk through without abandoning yourself. A healthy connection is not measured only by someone's arrival. It is measured by whether truth can remain in the room after they arrive. It is measured by whether you can say no without fearing that love will disappear. It is measured by whether responsibility is shared. It is measured by whether your peace grows instead of becoming another price you pay to keep someone close. The delivery may take many forms. It may be a relationship. It may be work. It may be a responsibility. It may be a direction you did not expect. It may simply be a season where your mind becomes quieter and your choices become clearer. The outward form can change. The seal remains the same. What belongs in your life will draw you toward truth. It will mature you in love. It will not require you to betray what has been healed. Remember the servants in the parable who were entrusted with different amounts. What mattered was not comparison. What mattered was stewardship. My beloved child, whatever comes into your hands will still need to be cared for. The right door still requires you to walk through it. A healthy relationship still requires honesty. A new opportunity still requires discipline. Peace still requires boundaries. Clarity still requires choices. You cannot ask for peace while feeding conversations that keep chaos alive in your mind. You cannot ask for a healthy relationship while leaving the back door open for an old pattern to return whenever loneliness becomes loud. You cannot ask for purpose while spending all your strength proving yourself to people who were never assigned to understand every part of your journey. The promise comes with stewardship. Stewardship is the quiet discipline of honoring what is good without allowing it to become your master. They imagine one great event will solve everything. They imagine that when the right thing arrives, fear will disappear, discipline will become easy, and every old habit will lose its voice. But my beloved child, sometimes the deepest miracle is much quieter. It is that you no longer say yes while your heart is warning you. It is that you no longer chase someone when their attention disappears. It is that you can receive praise without needing it to survive. It is that you can see an old door open and know you do not belong in that room anymore. It is that you can receive something good without checking it constantly to make sure it is real. Freedom often takes the shape of small decisions. A delayed reply, a clear boundary, a full night of sleep, an honest conversation, a decision not to reopen what has already shown you its fruit. My beloved child, when the letter is finally opened, do not imagine it only saying, "This is what I have prepared." It must also teach you how to preserve what you receive. Preserve it through honesty, not fear. Through boundaries, not control. Through gratitude, not clinging. Through responsibility, not the need to prove yourself. If you receive a relationship, do not turn it into a courtroom where the other person must constantly prove they will never leave. If you receive work, do not turn achievement into the new place where your worth must be earned. If you receive influence, do not let approval become your master. If you receive peace, do not keep inviting chaos back because peace feels unfamiliar. My beloved child, stewardship means caring for the gift without worshiping it. You can be grateful without gripping. You can value something without making it your identity. You can love someone deeply without making them responsible for your sense of worth. You can work faithfully without making success the measure of your life. Remember Solomon asking for wisdom when responsibility became greater than his natural ability. He understood that receiving a position was not the same as knowing how to carry it. Not fear, not arrogance, teachability. When something good comes, ask how to carry it well. Ask what habits need to remain. Ask what boundaries must continue. Ask what truth must be spoken sooner. Ask where rest is necessary before exhaustion turns gratitude into resentment. My beloved child, do not abandon the lessons that prepared you simply because the waiting ends. You needed discernment before the door opened. You will still need discernment after you enter. You needed boundaries before the relationship became healthy. You will still need boundaries while love grows. You needed humility while waiting. You will still need humility when others begin noticing what has changed. The new season does not cancel the wisdom of the old season. It gives that wisdom somewhere to live. Pay attention to the quiet signs. A person respects the words "I need time" without punishing you. An opportunity remains reasonable after you pray. A conversation becomes clearer instead of more confusing. An apology is followed by visible change. A door opens without demanding that you destroy your dignity to enter. The seal often speaks quietly. My beloved child, you have been trained to notice intensity. Now learn to notice steadiness. Learn to notice what does not require panic. Learn to notice what still stands after questions. Learn to notice what allows you to remain yourself. And when something good enters, do not immediately ask how long it will last. Ask how you can meet it with honesty today. Do not rehearse the ending while the beginning is still unfolding. Do not make tomorrow's uncertainty steal today's gratitude. Hold what comes with open hands. Tell the truth inside it. Rest when you need rest. Say no when no protects what is good. Say yes when yes is clear. Let gratitude deepen without becoming possession. My beloved child, this is how you receive without losing yourself. This is how the delivery becomes more than an event. It becomes evidence that the person who once believed every open door had to be entered is now able to recognize, receive, and preserve what carries peace. And soon you will notice something even quieter. The proof will not always be found in what arrives at your door. It will be found in the way you live after it arrives, in what no longer controls you, in what no longer keeps you awake, in the names you can hear without collapsing, in the silence you can finally allow to remain peaceful. Those quiet signs are where I want to meet you next. My beloved child, the quiet signs are already beginning to speak. You may notice them before anyone else does. An evening comes, and you realize you did not check the phone the way you once did. A morning arrives, and the old conversation is not the first thing waiting for you. Someone's name is mentioned, and your body does not collapse into the same fear. You hold a boundary, and instead of panic, a strange stillness follows. You say, "I need time," and the person in front of you respects it. An opportunity remains after you pray. My beloved child, do not dismiss these things because they are quiet. Healing does not always arrive like thunder. Sometimes healing is a room that finally becomes peaceful. Sometimes it is a door that no longer makes you turn around. Sometimes it is sleep returning to a body that forgot how to rest. Sometimes it is the moment you realize that silence no longer feels like punishment. These are signs that the key has changed hands. The past is no longer governing the house. Fear may still knock, but they no longer decide who enters. My beloved child, this is why I brought this message to you with urgency. Not because disaster is chasing you, not because you should become afraid of what is coming. I spoke because your growth has reached a place where it must be protected. You have learned too much to return casually to the old arrangement. You have seen too clearly to call confusion love again. You have tasted peace too deeply to keep treating chaos like passion. And yet the old compassion in you may still be tempted to tear down what wisdom has built. You may think that because you understand someone's pain, you must give them access again. You may think that because someone regrets what happened, you are responsible for helping them rewrite the past. You may think that because a door opens again, you are supposed to walk through it. My beloved child, do not confuse the opportunity to understand the past with a calling to return to it. Some lessons are meant to be carried forward, not repeated. Some people can be forgiven without being restored to the same place. Some stories can be honored without being reopened. Some doors can remain closed without hatred. This is maturity. Open your hands. Place into them the need to be understood by everyone. Place into them the fear that saying no will make you cruel. Place into them the old belief that you must keep every connection alive to prove that your heart is good. Place into them the pressure to make every ending make sense. Place into them the names of people whose opinions still have too much influence over your peace. My beloved child, you do not need to grip any of these things anymore. Remember how Jesus prayed in Gethsemane. He did not hide the weight of what he felt. He spoke honestly, then surrendered himself to the Father's will. Surrender was not numbness, it was honest trust. Open hands. Open because you no longer need to control what belongs to me. You have spent this journey learning how to read the letter differently. At first you thought the message was mainly about what would arrive. Now you understand that the deeper message was about who would be holding the key when it arrived. You learned to separate anxiety from guidance. You learned to examine the seal. You learned that delay can prepare what haste would damage. You learned not to sign your name with fear. You cleared the inner room. You stopped measuring your worth by how necessary you could become. You learned where your responsibility ends. You put down burdens that were never yours. You returned the key. You recognized the old when it came wearing a new face. You allowed boundaries to protect what was being restored. You learned that familiar and safe are not the same. You learned to say, "I need time." You learned to let the water settle. You learned not to use waiting as a hiding place when truth had already become clear. You looked around the repaired house. You learned to receive counsel without giving another person permission to rule your life. And you learned that every delivery comes with stewardship. My beloved child, keep these lessons together. Do not carry them like rules meant to make you afraid. The seal you are learning to recognize is not excitement alone. It is not urgency alone. It is not the strength of someone's words. Look for truth. Look for consistency. Look for responsibility. Look for peace deep enough to remain when the first emotion passes. What is healthy will not require you to disappear. What is right may challenge you, but it will not need self-betrayal to survive. What is from me will draw you toward honesty, maturity, love, and responsibility. My beloved child, the delivery may not look exactly like what you imagined when this journey began. It may be a relationship. It may be the simple freedom to live one ordinary day without being ruled by the past. Do not make the outward form more important than the fruit. If what comes helps you become more truthful, more responsible, more peaceful, more loving, and more willing to walk in wisdom, pay attention. And when something good arrives, receive it without worshiping it. Do not make it carry the weight of your identity. Do not demand that it guarantee your whole future. Do not squeeze it so tightly that gratitude becomes fear. Hold it with open hands. Steward it. Tell the truth inside it. Rest when you need rest. Keep the boundaries that helped you heal. Stay prayerful. Stay willing to change when truth exposes something in you. My beloved child, you are not being sent into the next season as the same person who first opened this letter. You know now that an open door is not a command. A closed door is not always rejection. A delay is not always abandonment. An apology is not always change. A strong feeling is not always guidance. A quiet peace is not emptiness. And love does not require you to erase yourself. Stand at the threshold with open eyes. Keep the key where wisdom can reach it. Let truth guard the door. Let compassion remain tender without becoming permission. Let your house stay warm without becoming unprotected. Then walk forward. You do not need the entire road tonight. You need the next faithful step. I will meet you there. And when fear asks whether you are sure, return to what you have learned. When the past asks for another room, remember what the house cost to repair. When something good asks to be received, do not punish it for what something else once did. My beloved child, the letter has done its work if you now understand this. You were never being prepared merely to receive something. You were being prepared to receive without losing yourself. Keep your hands open. Keep your heart honest. Keep your peace protected. Keep walking with me. Amen.